Hey guys, coming as for the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 1, Laws of Nature. And obviously, I was hyped up for this episode because, one, the amazing cliffhanger last season left me in suspense. I cannot wait to see what was going to happen in this episode. I really didn't know what was going to happen. Two, everything I heard about this season, them upgrading characters, really sounded like it was going to be the best season yet. And especially because last season, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I came into it not expecting to love it as much as I did, and I ended up really loving it. And this season, the way this is going, I honestly feel this has potential to become one of the best shows on TV, to be honest with you guys. This was an awesome premiere. I really loved it. There were some really different things this episode. There were some things that felt very different than the past two seasons, and that's something I really loved about this episode. But let's get into it. This was an amazing premiere, and there's a lot to talk about. So we open to a shot of fish oil tablets sitting on someone's shelf, and it's next to a photo of a man sitting in front of a motorcycle, and it looks like a Terrigenesis cocoon stands crumbling in the center of an apartment in ruins, and we see helicopters are approaching, billowing smoke coming from a building in the center of a city. And I have to say, this was an awesome intro. I mean, this episode got right into it. It got right into the action, and already was very suspenseful. Basically, the man from the photo is in the city, stumbling about as things explode and melt around him, and we don't know who this man is, but we know that there's something that he's connected to, definitely. So SUVs pull up, government agents pour out, they put the man at gunpoint, try to bring him into custody, and we realize that this guy is an Inhuman. He's turning into an Inhuman, he doesn't understand his powers, and I thought this was really interesting, and he tries to comply, but their guns melt and the man flares, and the soldiers track him to an alley, but their guns melt and the man flees, and the soldiers then track him to basically but the ground shakes and the soldiers are suddenly knocked away by a strong force, and Daisy appears. And you can't call her Sky anymore, okay? I've been calling her Daisy since, they revealed her name was Daisy, but officially now she's called Daisy Johnson, which is awesome because now I don't feel like, I don't feel weird being the only one calling her Daisy. Because obviously, her real name was Daisy, that's what I was calling her last season, and I'm sure people are like, why'd you call her Daisy last season? Because that's her real name. That they called her that in this episode, so that's why I called her that. I called her Daisy last season. That's why I called her that. But basically, she asks the man for his name, and he tells her his name is Joey. And Daisy tries to calm Joey down. He obviously has no idea what's going on with him. And Lance used a device to summon a flying transport unit that shoots off into the sky with Joey inside. And the soldiers walk into the alley but find it empty. And Joey's transport cell docks at Safer 1, and Daisy's team follow in a Quinajet. So a woman, played by Constance Zimmer, is on the show, which is awesome to see her. I mean, she does a really great job at playing these really powerful women, and again, in this show, she plays a character, Rosalind, and one of the soldiers reports to her. She complains that it is becoming hard to keep these operations going unnoticed, and Coulson snaps a photo of the woman from the sidewalk. Clearly, there's something he wants to know about her. So Daisy talks to Joey, still in his containment vehicle, and she explains what he's going through as best as she can, telling him that there is no cure, and Joey wants to know why his powers aren't melting the containment unit he's in. And Daisy explains it's material the unit is built out of and encourages Joey to get some rest. And she asks Joey if he takes fish oil, and he confirms that he does. And I really love the first half of this episode is pretty much just them explaining to Joey that he's an Inhuman. And I really like seeing them help him out. I thought that was definitely very interesting. It was kind of something we didn't see before in the previous two seasons, and I really like that. So Daisy reports to Coulson that Joey is the third incident this month. Inhumans are pretty much appearing everywhere at this point, all the time, and 5 disappeared, presumably taken by this mysterious new organization that they don't know about, and clearly this woman, Rosalind, is connected to it, and Coulson's trying to identify the woman he snapped a photo of, and meanwhile, that woman is having a similar conversation about the mysterious organization that interfered with her operations, and those 5 missing Inhumans are being examined, apparently via autopsy, and one has a hole where his heart was, which is understandable why they're probably, they examining them, because they're different, they want to know where they come from, why they're here, things like that. I can totally understand why they're examining them and operating them. That makes total sense why that's going on. Is it the right thing to do? No, I'm not condoning what they're doing, obviously, but I understand why they're doing that. And again, this is just very interesting because, especially last season when we were just getting introduced to Inhumans and now we're here, it's awesome. I really do love seeing that. I think they're doing a very good, I really like the way they're expanding what's going on with the Inhumans. So, and like I've said, the Inhumans are basically one of the most essential parts of the show now, so I love that. So Bobbi waits in a room made of the same material as Joey's containment cell, and the cell is lowered into the room, which is now Joey's, and Bobbi discusses what she knows about Joey from his Facebook page, including caring about others over himself, that he has an ex-boyfriend that changed the relationship status, and basically she just knows a lot about him. So she explains that they're keeping him safe from others and others safe from him, and she leaves and the containment cell opens, and basically he, again, has no idea what's going on. He doesn't know really why they want him, and they pretty much want to recruit him from S.H.I.E.L.D. And she basically tells him that he can't get away, you know, that he can never go back to his normal life, and even though he wants to, he can't, and it's pretty sad, but again, they have to recruit these people because if he doesn't, leave them, he's probably going to be operated on by Rosalind. That's obviously not going to be good. So Lance tells Coulson that the agents they encountered are not Hydra, but they are well funded, and Mac explains that the woman could be with anyone. She could be with any organization that there is. They have no idea who she is. So the woman has worked with several organizations, all under different aliases, including the CIA, MI6, and not like Mission Impossible 6. MI6 is something completely different. So Lance nods as if impressed by that last one, and basically Coulson suggests tracking the hardware. He tells Lance to take the gun to Bobbi in the lab, but he refuses to go near Bobbi because we know things are kind of tense between Lance and Bobbi, which they do resolve in this episode, but things are very kind of, they're not on the best terms right now. So Coulson says he'll do it himself, and they discuss Joey, who has the power to liquefy metal, which I think is really cool that he can do that. Kind of something we haven't seen yet, and that's something I'm looking forward to the season. I'm pretty sure we're going to get introduced to more Inhumans as the season goes on, and I really like seeing their powers. Definitely, it's something that's very interesting. So Mac and Daisy check on Joey. Joey tells her to give it to him straight. She explains that Joey's part of the small percent of the population born with alien genes, the Inhumans, and I like that she told him straight out what was going on. Because I thought they were going to, keep this from him, and I'm happy that they didn't, because obviously they want to help him, and they want him to gain their trust, obviously. They want him to know, hey, we care for you, we want to help you, we're just trying to do the best thing here, and I'm happy that they were able to do that, so that way he knew that he could in fact trust them, which he needed to know. So his activism was triggered by the Terrigen recently released into the ecosystem, and she reveals that she is also an Inhuman, and he just starts laughing uncontrollably. He stops laughing, and it was pretty funny, and basically he stops laughing. They tell him that for now he can't leave and he can never go back to his old life, and he wants to go back to his old life because he enjoys his old life and he really doesn't want to be there. And I like seeing someone who really didn't want to be a part of this team. I thought that was definitely very interesting. And at this point, though, he really only has two options. Either he works with Daisy and all the other, Inhumans. We can't really call them S.H.I.E.L.D. because they're not S.H.I.E.L.D. Either he works with Daisy's team. It's not even Coulson's team anymore. It's really Daisy's team. Daisy's kind of taking over now, and either he works with Daisy's team or he's going to get captured by Rosalind and be inspected on. So he really doesn't have a choice here. But basically, Mac turns on news reports about the chaos that Joey caused in Seattle. He's pretty much a fugitive, and they're after him. So pretty much him being with them is his best thing to do. So Daisy says the world has been a little twitchy since Sokovia fell out of the sky. Of course, that's the falling city from Avengers Age of Ultron, which I like that they're connecting it to that. I definitely really do like that. So Joey gets heated and starts losing control of his powers, melting Mac's clipboard and trying to push Daisy out of the way. And Daisy uses her powers to subdue him, and I really like seeing Daisy help out these Inhumans. Like I said, I really like seeing that, and especially if she continues to train them and things like that, like Lincoln did. I think it definitely is going to be very interesting to see what they do with that. And Lincoln is in this episode, but I kind of feel like we'll all talk about when we get to Lincoln. So Coulson finds Bobbi in the lab. She tells him that there's been no new info on the monolith that ate Gemma, because obviously they want to know where the hell Gemma went, which I'm sure is on all of our minds. Where the fuck did Gemma go? Obviously, you guys know I was really upset that they made us wait that long, but we do sort of find out in this episode where Gemma went. Not very well, but we do get some sort of information. So meanwhile, they identify the fish oil as what triggered Joey's Terrigenesis. They pulled the oil from store shelves, but they can't retrieve previous sold bottles. So the poisonous element sank to the bottom of the ocean. So it's no longer deadly to normal humans. Unfortunately, it has spread to sea life. So Coulson and Bobbi take a look at Coulson's calcified hand in a containment cube because obviously he got his hand cut off last season, if you remember, and Coulson gives her the weapon to examine and asks after Fitz, who is not at the base. And that's understandable, especially after losing someone like Gemma, you would expect Fitz to go, and obviously Fitz's main mission is to find out where Gemma is, and Coulson leaves and Bobbi calls Fitz, and she says she can't cover for him any longer, that they need him, and he is in Tangier, Morocco. Now, he's following up on a lead, and he promises to come in soon, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is where Gemma went to, because all we know is that she got sucked up into the obelisk, and we don't know what happened to her after that. So Fitz's driver points him in the direction of where he's looking for, but warns that Fitz shouldn't go and that he won't follow, and Fitz walks up to a couple guards and asks to see Yusuf Adad, but Fitz is carrying a briefcase he believes Yusuf will want to see, but he refuses to show it to the guards, and the guards put up a sack over his head, and obviously this is not going to work the way Fitz wants it to. So Mac finds Bobbi in the lab and laments that they've lost Fitz again, and Bobbi says that Fitz has a theory, and Mac says that Fitz needs to start acting like a scientist again because he's not. But Bobbi points out that neither one of them want to have that conversation with him, because they know the emotional trauma he's going through, they know how he's probably going to react, and they just don't want to deal with it, which is understandable. So Bobbi tests the guns they procured and asks Mac his opinion, and he believes it's from DARPA, which Bobbi already figured, and Mac tells her to tell Lance to tap contacts around the black market, but Bobbi says Lance isn't talking to her, and she knows why. She knows why he's not talking. So Fitz is brought to see Yusuf though Fitz is tied up and surrounded by guards, and Yusuf threatens Fitz's life to get him to open the case, but Fitz isn't bending, and Fitz needs a parchment that was buried near the monolith in the Yucatan, and the parchment is said to describe the monolith and fell into the possession of Yusuf's extremists when they ransacked a museum in Iraq. So Yusuf shows Fitz the scroll, and Fitz opens the case, and inside the case is a dozen splinter bombs like the one that killed Bakshi. So what they want to do with these, we don't know, and basically, we don't know what they're dealing with. They could be dealing with terrorists here, they could be dealing with, we don't really know what they want at this point. So Yusuf points out that only love makes a man so stupid and tries to use one of the splinter bombs on Fitz, and of course, Fitz is falling in love with Gemma. We know that. He's fallen in love with her. He doesn't want to, but he basically has, and yeah, it's kind of making him do crazy things. So instead it flashes, binding everyone in the room except for Fitz, and Fitz escapes with the scroll, and luckily he's okay. Obviously he's going to be okay. So Daisy tells Coulson she wants to bring Lincoln in to help acclimate new humans like Joey, which I thought would probably be the logical thing to do. Obviously, Lincoln trained her, so it would really only make sense for him to train the Inhumans since he knows what he's doing. And it's not that Daisy, I don't think, does know what she's doing. She's just not as experienced with this kind of thing, as Lincoln is. Lincoln has a lot more experience. Lincoln knows a lot more about this stuff, how to say things and how to help out these people. While Daisy does, I think Lincoln just has a better idea of what to do, really. So, basically, Coulson agrees, and Daisy and Mac move to bring him in, and Bobbi has traced the weapon back to the woman. There's a small opening where Coulson can capture on a train, and Coulson and Lance board the train with her, but find themselves surrounded by her agents, and Lance and Coulson are cuffed to their seats, and the woman introduces herself as Rosalind, and Coulson questions Rosalind about her shifting organizations, but she also knows how both Coulson and S.H.I.E.L.D. should be dead, and how there shouldn't be a S.H.I.E.L.D. And she even brings up Tahiti. Rosalind plans to detain them and questions them later, and Coulson says it's not necessary, so Rosalind asks where Coulson is hiding them, because obviously she wants the Inhumans. Now, why she does, we don't know, but she clearly probably wants to test them, and she's after them because obviously they're the one that are harboring Inhumans, and it's kind of like an underground railroad. The Underground Railroad? That's pretty much just what it's like for the Inhumans. It's like slaves, but it's Inhumans, what I think is very interesting. So Lincoln is now working at a hospital. We don't know why, but he's gone to check on a patient and find Daisy and Mac there, and they ask him for his help, but Lincoln no longer believes that Inhuman is a gift, but a curse, which is understandable. The world has now changed. Inhumans is not something good. It's something that's dangerous. If you're an Inhuman, you're a fugitive. It's not very safe for you, so Lincoln really does not want to help them. And Rosalind says she's tasked with neutralizing the Inhuman threat. She says the laws of nature have changed. Until the laws of men catch up, they can only do what they think is right, and Coulson agrees. And Rosalind believes that Coulson has been killing the Inhumans. They've been recovering, but Coulson is also in the dark. And Rosalind says the Inhumans have been killed, all with the same energy weapon, and that they have nothing to worry about. And back at the hospital, things are getting really heated between Lincoln and Mac. You know, they're really going at. The lights are starting to flicker. But Lincoln says it's not his doing, and they run to the hall. They see this man kill a guard by using energy emitted from his hand, and it's Lash, Lash is the big villain of this season. He basically is looking for the Inhumans and charges Lincoln when he sees him, and that was awesome when we saw Lash. I didn't think we were going to see him in this episode, but I thought that was pretty awesome. So Mac and Daisy help defend him, but the man disintegrates a wall and runs through, and they follow as Lincoln notices a coworker who saw him use his powers call 911. So I don't know if Lash and Rosalind are working together. It very well could be possible, though, because they both want the Inhumans, and they both want to basically destroy them. So, well, I'm thinking that Rosalind wants to destroy them. I don't know yet. So, both Rosalind and Coulson get phone calls at the same time. Rosalind moves away to answer her phone. As the guard moves to pull out Coulson's phone, Coulson pulls off his prosthetic hand, breaks free, and summons extraction. That was pretty awesome that we saw that. So Lincoln and Daisy catch up with the Monster Man, and basically they catch up with Lash. They try to fight him. They don't really say what he is, but we know he's Lash because we've seen the pictures of him. So he stands up to direct assault. So Daisy breaks the floor under him. They leave the hospital as Rosalind's men arrive, and Daisy tries to convince Lincoln to go with her, but he flees. He knows how dangerous this is. He doesn't want to be involved, and I can understand why he doesn't want to be involved. He should be involved, but you can tell that he doesn't want to get mixed up with this right now because it's too much for him, and he knows how dangerous it is, and he doesn't want to be put into this position. I can understand that, but he probably is the only thing that are going to help these Inhumans understand, truly who they are. He's really the only person that can do that. Even though he doesn't really want to, he's pretty much going to have to, at some point. He's going to have to do that. So Bobbi asks Lance why he's not speaking to her, and he says, because you're not supposed to see the bride on the wedding day, and hands over her wedding ring. And Bobbi says she didn't mean to imply that they should get married again. And, if you remember, it seemed like they were going to get married, and, she's not saying they are, and Lance is determined to go after Grant for what he did, but Bobbi wants him to wait until she's ready to go with him, and Mac interrupts them, and I like that Grant is still out there. Like, he's not he's a part of the story still, but he's not the main threat, which I really do like. So Bobbi wants him to wait until she's ready to go with him, and Mac interrupts them until alert them to a news report, and basically POTUS, which is the news report, addresses the nation over the many catastrophes that have occurred around the world, hitting the highlights of most of the Marvel. Basically, we pretty much see all the highlights of most of the Marvel movies, which I think was really cool that they did that. And by executive order, the president has formed the Advanced Threat Containment Units, ATCU for short, with full license and authority to neutralize alien threats, and basically, they want to do whatever they can to get rid of these Inhumans. And the president recites the same line about laws of nature and man that Rosalind said earlier. And Coulson watched a simulation that shows widespread teragenesis across the globe in about 17 months. And obviously, this is not good for any of the Inhumans, and Daisy is then drinking a beer with Joey. He says he's hid a secret before and was miserable. She says the world's not ready to hear this secret, and obviously, he doesn't want to admit, he's not going to tell anyone that he's an Inhuman. That's obviously not safe for him. So, although his secret, I think it's that he's an Inhuman. I don't know, maybe there's more of a secret. We'll have to see. But Fitz returns, and Coulson is waiting for him, and we get what is by far one of the most heartbreaking scene in this episode. I mean, the performance in this scene by Fitz, whoever plays Fitz, I don't know his name, but whoever plays him, amazing performance in this scene. Just amazing performance. You really see how much he loved Gemma, and it's a really powerful scene. So, Fitz thinks he has the answer to the monolith problem, but Coulson says they tried to find Jemma in the monolith, even checking for her at microscopic size after the PIM Technologies incident, of course, from Ant-Man. And scans show the monolith is solid, and Fitz believes it's a black hole that warps space-time, and Fitz opens the scroll looking for answers, and there's a single Hebrew word, and all it reads is death. So pretty much he's thinking that Gemma's dead at this point. And Coulson says that Gemma's family deserves to know so they can can move on, so the team can move on. And Coulson laments the loss of his hand and says that Melinda may never come back from vacation. If you remember, Melinda left. She said she wanted to take a break, and I'm hearing rumors that her character might leave the show. So I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back for a couple of episodes and then leaves for good, because I'm hearing rumors that, she might leave. So he says nothing will be the same, but they have to move on, and that's true. They're all going through a lot of things right now. Inhumans, it's a lot more dangerous from them. They don't know where Gemma is. Melinda's gone. Daisy's kind of taken over the team. I mean, things are just very different, but they have to acclimate to new life, and I really do agree with what Coulson's saying there. So Fitz drops the skull, stumbles out of the lab, then with more purpose, goes to the room with the monolith. He enters the containment unit, demands the monolith do something. He screams at it, punches it. It doesn't do anything, and you really see how Fitz is feeling. I mean, Fitz obviously was feeling pain the whole episode, but this was really the point where you see how much this is eating up at Fitz and how much this is driving him insane. I think Fitz also feels like he sort of caused this and that he could have prevented it. It sort of is also what's going on, and it's just too bad that this has had to happen. But basically, we pretty much think that Gemma's dead, but then we see at the end of this episode that Gemma runs across a barren, craggy region, hiding behind rocks. She rubs some dirt on her face, and it seems to calm her. She looks out from behind the rocks, sees a planet and a moon in the sky behind her, so clearly she's on another planet. Where she is, I don't know, but that's basically where Gemma is, and I thought that was very good they answered that. They're not telling us fully what's going on, where Gemma is. They're not telling us yet, and I definitely really do love that. But what an awesome premiere, guys. Seriously, this was a great premiere. They didn't hold anything back. They introduced everyone. What I loved about this episode is that everyone is back, but it felt organic. Like, it felt like they all need to come back, and I definitely really did love seeing that in this episode, and I'm already really loving the storyline this season, and this is going to be the best season. I'm calling it now. This is probably going to be the best season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, the threats are bigger than ever. It's really intense stuff, and let's talk about Rosalind, because we don't really know what she wants to do with the Inhumans. I'm thinking she just wants to do what everyone else does and just obliterate them. But why is she testing on them? Like, what is she operating them on? Is she trying to figure out, who's Inhuman, who's not? Because she clearly knows who's in Inhuman, so what is she testing them on? I don't know. That's going to be very interesting. Joey's secret. Now, I'm thinking that he's an Inhuman, but is there more that he's hiding from Daisy? It seems like maybe there's more he's hiding there. I don't really know, but that's going to be very interesting. Daisy obviously needs to recruit Lincoln back to help out the Inhumans, because he's really the only one that I said could help train the Inhumans. He really is probably the only person that could do that, even though Daisy is doing a good job, and Mac is too. I think Mac, even though he's not an Inhuman, he's doing a pretty good job at helping her. They need Lincoln, because Lincoln obviously knows what he's doing, but Lincoln just doesn't really feel safe right now. He kind of feels like he has to hide out, and especially because he's also an Inhuman, and things could go really bad for him, so I don't know what's going to happen with Lincoln. We'll have to see what happens with that. Lash. I really am loving the character of Lash, I have to say. He's really menacing and very creepy, and I don't really know what's going to happen with him, but things are going to get very interesting with Lash. Is he working with Rosalind? I don't know. It seems like they want the same thing, but there's no way they're working together. I'm going to say it right now. There's no way that Lash and Rosalind, there's no way that these two are working together. We're definitely going to find out more about Lash. I looked up some history about him. I'm not going to say anything to you guys, but let's just say he has a personal vendetta against the Inhumans for a reason, and that alone, just what I read, intrigued me, and he's probably going to, I think, be a more powerful villain than even, what was her name? Daisy's mom. I can't remember Daisy's mom, but you know what I'm talking about. Daisy's mom. I think he's going to be more of a powerful threat than her, and he's probably going to be the biggest threat that S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever faced, definitely, and I think that definitely is going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Now, why did Gemma leave? What does Yusuf have against Gemma? Why did they take her? Why is she there specifically? And also, what do they want? What does this have to do with what happened with Fitz, obviously? Because Fitz, obviously, it didn't work out. They were not able to open the monolith. They weren't able to open it, and it seems like Gemma probably has the key to open it, but they don't have the key, so that's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. Obviously, like I said with Melinda, I don't know if she's coming back. I'd like to say that, yeah, Melinda is coming back, but at this point, I don't really think even Coulson knows at this point. She kind of left to make her own life, and if she left, then she left. You know, there's really nothing they can do about that. So I don't really know if Melinda is coming back. It'd be cool to see her again. She is on the poster for this episode, but we'll have to see what happens there. Grant and Bobbi, not Grant and Bobbi, Lance and Bobbi, are they actually going to get married? I know they're setting up their spinoff. They are doing a spinoff. It is confirmed that they're doing it. I know they weren't sure if they're doing it before, but it's convinced that they're going to do that. Are they going to go after Grant? Obviously, Lance wants to go after Grant, so is that going to happen? Bobby's saying it's not the right time, but you know how Lance is. When he wants stuff done, he gets it done, and we'll have to see what happens with that, because that's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. That definitely is going to be very interesting. I really like the power struggle between Rosalind and Coulson because they kind of both are the same kind of person. Like, Rosalind's very powerful and Coulson's very powerful, but they have such different viewpoints. Like, Rosalind thinks the Inhumans are, you know, rebels and they're terrorists and they're really bad, while Coulson obviously wants to help them. He wants to help them and he wants to train them and he wants, you know, Daisy to train them and help them out and things like that, but Rosalind is completely against that, and I really am liking the character of Rosalind already. Even though we've seen her in this episode, I already really love her character. What I like about her is that she is an antagonist, but you understand why she's doing. You know, she's only doing what the rest of the world is doing because they obviously haven't dealt with Inhumans before. They haven't seen them show their cards. You know, they don't know that they can help them out. So pretty much right now, they're criminals, and that definitely is going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening there. Who else are they going to recruit? Obviously, 5 Inhumans are missing. Do you think at some point they're going to find those 5 Inhumans? Obviously, it seems like they're trying to get as many Inhumans as possible and protect them because they can't protect them anywhere else. Obviously, like I said, you either go to S.H.I.E.L.D. or you die. That pretty much is what happens to you at this point. So I'm pretty sure they're going to try to find those 5 Inhumans, if they're alive, that is. Again, Rosalind's operating on them. She did not kill them. She's operating on them. And we don't know why she's operating on them, but clearly there's a reason that we don't know yet, and that's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening there. But overall, guys, a really fantastic premiere. I absolutely love this premiere. I think this is going to be the best season by far. I definitely feel, I already feel they're going to top next season, last season. Definitely they're going to top last season. I mean, last season was like the comeback season for the show because season 1 wasn't very good. It's going to be like Gotham this year, definitely. Gotham, I'm not watching, but like I heard Gotham is pretty much doing what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did last year, which I think is really cool. But this season is going to be amazing. I'm so hyped up for it. I can't wait for next week's episode. But let me know what you guys thought of this premiere. I absolutely loved it. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Scream Queens. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.